Remakers Mark, episode 65, Dune. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Remakers Mark. Here we are in our 65th episode, where we are discussing the sci-fi epic Dune, the 1984 version, not the new one. With me, as always, are my friends Andy Wicks. Actually, Andy can't make it tonight. He needed a night off, so we are happy to give that to him. Andy, hope you're feeling well. However, Jeremy Nilsson, Jeremy is with me tonight. Jeremy, how are you doing tonight? And what is your favorite musician cameo in a movie?
I am doing lovely. Thank you for asking. And my favorite is going to be Tom Waits as Doc Heller in Mystery Men.
Oh,
nice.
That's so good.
That's a good pick. That's hardly a cameo. That's like a whole damn character.
That's true.
But I agree. I think it's really good. Good choice.
Excellent character.
Lee Harkonnen, how are you tonight? And what about you? What is your favorite musician cameo in a movie?
I'm good, and I will go with Billy Idol in The Wedding Singer.
Nice.
He's
playing a
he's
younger version of himself.
Yeah. And it does spawn the line by Adam Sandler. Billy Idol gets it. Why doesn't she?
A question for the ages. Mark Joesting, how are you tonight? And what is your favorite musician cameo in a movie?
I am fine, thank you. And I'm having a hard time with this question now. I had one firmly in mind, and I think I have to change it because, well, Bruce Springsteen in High Fidelity is just so good.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
Having the main character, Rob Gordon, asking the boss for advice and the boss actually responding to him, it's perfect.
Yep. Perfect for that movie and just perfect in general. Agreed. Mm. My name is Kyle. I will be your host once again this fine evening. I'm going to go with, even though I don't think it's a very good performance, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with Alanis Morissette as God in Dogma. Just because... Nice. What the hell? Why not? Right? I mean, it's just kind of perfect. So we are going to transition first before we talk about Dune into the Remakers Mark Recommend segment, which is me. Today we are talking about my movie, my Dune. So I will be giving the recommendation tonight. Hope you all enjoyed the Remakers Mark Recommend special episode that we did. Maybe you got some things out of that. Hit us up on social media. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, etc., etc. Tonight I'm going to recommend a TV show. I had, if you want to read between the lines, I had a unexpected 10-day vacation about 3 weeks ago, during which I had to sit around a lot, and I got to watch a lot of shows and, what have you. One of the ones that I really, really enjoyed was The Movies That Made Us. It is a super fun series. It's, I don't know how to describe it. It's nostalgic in a way that I think is really fun, and it doesn't play it entirely for just like, aw shucks. It's very fun, very cheeky, very quirky. The narrator is really great, and the style of it is really great. Plus, you learn a lot about movies that, I would say the mission of it is learn about the movies that you love, which I think, shares a lot with our podcast here. But suffice to say, there's some really great discussions there, from everything from Jurassic Park to Halloween, Friday the 13th, Aliens, right? There's tons and tons and tons of them. Home Alone, I guess. I haven't seen that one, but that one is supposed to be very, very good. So I highly recommend that. If you're a movie nerd at all and you have Netflix, check out The Movies That Made Us. There's also apparently one called The Toys That Made Us, and I just started that one with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and just got a little bit into that. Nice. So far, so good. Not quite as good as the movies one, but I'm digging it so far.
I've seen a couple episodes of that show, and when I first was going to watch it, I expected it to be like that old VH1 show, I Love the 80s.
Yeah.
That's just a bunch of talking heads talking about all of the things that made the 80s the 80s. And I loved that show because it was just nostalgia in a bucket. But Movies That Made Us is much more almost educational in a way. And it's not just like, oh, remember that, but it's more about what it was and why it was and all that other stuff too. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Good. That makes me happy. The filmmaking of it is really, it's very well done. They try to talk to as many of the principal performers, actors, designers, like toy makers. I mean, like all this stuff. They really bring in as many people as they can to talk about the movie. And it's almost never like the main capital S star, although they do get that sometimes. But the more interesting stuff to me is like the people who designed the Ed 209 and RoboCop, or that designed like Stan Winston's studio, yada yada yada, right? Like that stuff to me is so much fun. That's the stuff that I really really love. And the people that were like pumping fake blood out of a fake neck wound, like how that went, and the one where the guy was getting shot in the eye on Friday the 13th, and they had to take him to the hospital because the fake blood like pooled in his eye, and it had Kodak film processing liquid in it to get it like its most rich, vibrant color, and they didn't mean for that to happen. So, I mean, just craziness. It's really, really fun. So I'm glad you like it. That makes me happy. Now we can move on to our discussion of Dune. To learn a little bit about Dune, Jer, normally this is Andy's duty. I would love if you wouldn't mind filling in his however size shoes. What do you think Andy's shoe size are? We're going to play pretend facts with Andy. What do you think? 12? 12 and a half?
I was going to go
Probably.
13.
I was going to say 11.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
I feel like I wore his sandals at the cottage once, and they fit, and I'm an 11.
Interesting. Okay. Surprising for a tall guy.
Yeah, Andy is quite tall.
Yes, it's true. Jerry, yes, if you wouldn't mind reading the summary of the movie, that would be fantabulous.
Yes, and we are once again talking about the 1984 Dune, not the 2021 Dune. So, Dune is a film directed by David Lynch and based on the novel of the same name written by Frank Herbert in 1965. It tells the story of two warring families, House Atreides and House Harkonnen, as they strive for control of the desert planet Arrakis, which is the only source of spice mélange, a spice that grants super brain powers and such. House Atreides takes over control of Arrakis from House Harkonnen by decree of the Emperor, and thus has control of the production of said spice. What ensues when there is change in control of a commodity monopoly? Hilarity, that's what.
Mm-hmm.
So true. So true.
Kyle, why did you pick this movie?
This is one that I've had on my list for some time, mostly because it's pretty maligned. I don't think a lot of people really love this movie, and I love it in spite of itself, kind of. Like, I know it's not a great movie, but I watch this like probably once a year, maybe twice a year, just cause, right?
Wow.
Just because it seems like the right thing to do. Yeah. So it's just one of those movies for me. So I thought that there is definitely opportunity for things to be improved, for sure. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity to dig into that a bit together. I thought that would be a lot of fun. Andy made a note here saying that this was the first time seeing it in its entirety. Prior to the viewing, he wondered why he hadn't seen it, as this film was kind of right smack dab in his wheelhouse. And then he notes, but then I watched it. So, we'll see what that means in part two with him, and Andy is hopefully able to join us and feeling better. But yeah, I could see that. Jared, how about you?
So I was convinced up until starting to press play that I had seen this already. And then as I watched it, I realized that I was confusing this movie with what I think is a combination of Krull, ice pirates, and probably some sort of fever dream. Because I've definitely never seen this before.
That's really funny. I like that combination, though. I mean, that's a recipe for success? Question mark, I guess. I don't know. Stay tuned.
Yeah, and I think I have the exact same history with this, because I thought I had seen, or at least parts of it, and then just actually watching it now, I realize I had not. But I've definitely seen Krull and Ice Pirates, and I've definitely had fever dreams.
Interesting. I'm happy to have this hypnosis session with you, I guess, or something like that. Fever Dream Dune.
I had never seen this prior to watching it for the podcast, but I remember growing up, I would only hear about this in conversations of, this is the worst movie I've ever seen, and that sort of thing. Like, people, when they were talking about bad movies, this would always come up.
Yeah, it's got a hell of a reputation, that's for sure. Yes. Cool. Well, as usual, in part one here, we are going to be recasting the film. We are going to be talking about 3 major characters and 5 minor characters. The first major character is that of Baron Harkonnen. Originally played by Kenneth McMillan, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is the picture of gluttony, at least in this film. He rules House Harkonnen with a warty, sweaty fist and is determined to take back control of Arrakis, while never once setting foot on it, or anything else for that matter. That was Andy's description. So if that was bad, blame him. JK, it was my reading. That was not great. Andy's a very good writer. So this is a very interesting performance. It's very big. Kenneth McMillan played this like all shouty and bluster and literally floating around like this character. I don't know if I don't really understand. He's just a balloon. He's a balloon man. And he just floats around and is decadent and like drinks goo, and there's a cat with milk and a rat connected to it. There's just a lot. We'll get into that more in part 2. But suffice to say, this performance was a lot. And I think Andy kind of wanted to honor that while going a little bit different. His pick was that of Jack Black, specifically after taking elocution lessons from Kenneth Branagh.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think as big as Kenneth McMillan, not in personage, though, Jack Black's not a small guy, which is great. That's what I love about him. But just that like boom, everything personality, everything performance.
Yeah. Jack Black can definitely do that.
He does have the bombasticness.
Sticity?
Bombastimosity.
Bombasticity.
I think it's just bombast.
I don't know that I want to see a movie where there's a close-up of a doctor removing the pus from his face pustules, but I don't really want to see that on anybody, and it's unfortunate that it's in this movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I think it's as the new Dune shows, the role is open for interpretation. It doesn't quite have to be all pus and bluster. Well, there's our title. All right,
or
love it.
Pluster.
Ding. Pluster. Ugh. Gross. Jer, on to you. Who is your Baron Harkonnen?
I don't know how much we should talk about the new one in this, so I'm going to try to strictly keep it within the confines of the 1984 Dune. Baron Harkonnen, as played by Kenneth McMillan, was too cartoony for me, and I wanted a more imposing villain, and Baron Harkonnen in the books is a very large, I think he's 300 pounds or something like that from the books, just like this enormous, gluttonous, horrible, sadistic person. And so I wanted somebody that had sort of the physical presence of being horrifying from just from looking at them, but also can really deliver that like intense, ruler of this family that is going to stop at nothing to get what he wants, and just that sadistic nature. So I went with Vincent D'Onofrio, whose catalog I don't need to go through, but the two roles that I would specifically reference would be in The Cell, which we have done on this podcast, and also him as Kingpin in the Daredevil universe with the WBMCU, whatever that is, the Marvel TV stuff, where he played Kingpin for several seasons and really, really nailed that character. And I see a lot of Kingpin in Baron Harkonnen.
Hell yeah. That's a great line for that. Yep, agreed. 100%.
We should probably mention D'Onofrio in Men in Black.
Sugar water D'Onofrio.
Yeah,
sure.
the bug in the Egger suit, because he's super weird and super gross in that, and that would be amazing for Baron Harkonnen.
Weird and gross are absolutely something that should be added into this. Yes, and D'Onofrio is such a great chameleon that he would find a way to make Baron Harkonnen his own, and creepy and horrifying and imposing and all of that stuff. So. Vincent D'Onofrio. Kyle, on to you.
I also picked Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yes.
Essentially, I mean, I normally I like to bury the lead on that a little bit when that happens, but seriously, you did an amazing job of explaining who and why. So you nailed it, and we nailed it. So good job,
Yes,
team.
we did.
Yeah.
High fives all around.
Yes. It just felt right. Like I wanted that creepy, but not too creepy, like serious, bald, I mean, he just kept checking off boxes for me. So yeah, it's spot on. I think he would do wonderfully. So I don't need to delve too deep. You did a fine job already.
Not to throw spoilers out, but I've finally finished the Disney Plus show Hawkeye.
Mhm.
So if anybody hasn't watched that yet, stop listening. He comes back. D'Onofrio comes back as Kingpin in that show, and it's like, oh my gosh, there he is. There's my Harkonnen, and I just watched that like 4 or 5 days ago.
Nice.
So
Right on.
solid.
Cool. Mark, on to you. Who is your good Baron?
Well, I really, really wanted to not be chained to like the physically big Baron necessarily, and maybe he really should be that, as as he is described in the book. But my pick is not that. But if he needed to be there, we could always lean on costume or CGI. I really just wanted someone who could be super gross and creepy and would really lean into it. And so I asked myself, who would lean into that? And one of my favorites for that is Brad Dourif.
That's great.
Yes, his resume including Dune, the 1984 version, but also Wormtongue from the Lord of the Rings movies. And one of my favorites is a very small part from Alien Resurrection, where he plays one of the scientists who clones the aliens. And near the end of that movie, he's like fastened with alien goo to a wall and just watching the queen alien birth a new monster. And he's just kind of expounding about how beautiful it all is, saying, "You are a beautiful butterfly." And then he just delivers that with such adoration while being stuck to a wall with goo. And I adore it. I think that that he can do just really weird stuff and make it work. He's all in, and that's what I want to for Baron Harkonnen.
I love it. That's a great pick.
Thank you. Let us be moving on. Lee, who is your Baron?
Well, I think in a movie filled with overacting, this is the most overacted role. So I wanted to sort of run with that. So I picked Martin Kove, who people would know as Sensei Kreese in the Karate Kid movies.
Okay, yeah.
That's good.
Most recently of the Cobra Kai series. And if I don't know if you've ever listened to like the director's commentary of, I think it was like the 30th anniversary release of the Karate Kid. The director, I forget who it was, but every time he was talking about Martin Kove, he would talk about how much of an overactor he was. And, just kind of like laughing at a lot of the scenes that he's in and the lines that he delivered. So I thought he would be perfect for a role like this.
Can't argue with that. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see in part 2 talking about the tone of what, whether we liked it, which seems like not, which again, totally fine. We'll wait, of the movie. And if we would want to kind of keep it that way, or if we want sort of the more somber tone of the 2021 version, or what that would look like. So it's interesting to see who we recast and what that is like compared to the original versus what it could be going forward. So I like that. So for the role of Baron Harkonnen, Andy went with Jack Black, Jer and I went with Vincent D'Onofrio, Mark went with Brad Dourif, and Lee went with Martin Kove. Up next is Lady Jessica. Jer, take it away.
Yes, Lady Jessica, played by Francesca Annis, I believe is the pronunciation, is the concubine of Duke Atreides and his pseudo-wife, basically, and she is the mother of Paul, the main character. She's a member of the Bene Gesserit, an all-female, sort of religious, sort of spy, sort of genetic gerrymandering club. She is strong, faithful, and gives heart to a movie that forgets that movies need that sort of thing. I enjoyed Francesca's portrayal of Lady Jessica. It did really feel like kind of a grounding point in a movie that was, as Lee said, just kind of bombastically overacted, and then she kind of brought it all sort of back to the ground anytime that she was there. I wanted somebody that was going to have that grounding presence in and amidst all of these other sort of crazy performances. And I also wanted to kind of keep authentic with kind of the ideas of who the Atreides were versus the Harkonnens and whatnot. And so, and I'm going to try my best at this name. I went with Shora Agdashlu, and
Tell me more.
She came on the scene back in 2003 in the movie The Lake House. No, I'm sorry. Before that, 2003 House of Sand and Fog, where she got some critical acclaim. And I know her most from the television series The Expanse.
Okay.
If anybody has seen that, she plays Christian Avasalarala.
Oh, you really didn't make this easy on yourself.
I'm very apologetic on all of this. She has a very distinct voice. In fact, I just realized when I was researching her, she was Gozer's voice in the new Ghostbusters movie that came out this year, which is crazy to me. She just has a very sort of soft and also hard presence at the same time. She's very motherly, but also very like get done kind of personality. She plays a lot of political leaders and other sort of leadership style roles where she's used to being commanding. And I think that there's a little bit of that in Lady Jessica, but also this very maternal, loving sort of softness to her as well. So that's who I went with. And yeah, take that.
I like the sort of otherworldly aspect of her vibe and her voice. And, I think of some of the, like talking about the voice and talking about the Bene Gesserit. And, I think that would really lend itself well to that. That's a really good call.
Yeah, 100%. Mark, who is your Lady Jessica?
I really like your description of your pick, Jer, where you said she can be soft and hard at the same time. I was looking for someone that same thing, somebody who can be warm and then go really cold. I wanted somebody who could be elegant and poised and then turn on to like really off-putting. And so I picked Rosamund Pike.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a
also,
good pick.
It helps that she's tall.
Mm-hmm.
Is she? I didn't know that. That's a very Lee pick.
Yeah.
I think he's chosen her before. I know he's a big fan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one, Mark. I like that.
Yeah, I really can imagine her just in this sort of stately role, and then when she needs to turn on a witch voice, can be pretty creepy, and I like that a lot.
She is quite excellent in the Wheel of Time series on Amazon.
I would expect that from her, and I've yet to watch that, but it's definitely on my list. Yeah, so Rosamund Pike for Lady Jessica. Lee, let's move on to you.
Well, I like that this character does have a degree of strength, and she's very involved. She's not just like, somebody's wife and not just set decoration. So I went with Kate Beckinsale. We haven't cast her in a while, and I really like her for roles such as this, where for all the reasons that you guys pointed out, being strong, being very elegant, just bringing a lot of heart to it. So that's why I picked her.
Yeah, right on.
Mm-hmm.
I see that in the slightly different school than Rosamund Pike, but very, very close.
Yeah. Yeah, they both have that British thing going on too, so yeah.
Yeah.
But who did Andy pick?
Andy went with a very well-loved actress named Alfre Woodard. So I think that is a very interesting pick. It's interesting to see the sort of range of ages in this. I don't know how old Lady Jessica was in the book, but I've seen lots of different sort of age portrayals of the character. So, I feel like we're kind of all over not hugely all over the place, but there's a pretty decent range in this, which I think is kind of cool just to see what it could mean, to be everything that Lady Jessica encapsulates.
Well, doesn't I don't know the answer to this. Doesn't the book take place over quite a long spans of time?
I think so, yeah. Because, I mean, in the movie, they say, 2 years later, like just immediately, within the snap of a finger, it's 2 years later. So, yeah.
Because Paul, it's hard to even gauge how old Paul is supposed to be in the movie as well. So, guessing that he's sort of in his teens would put Lady Jessica probably in her, 40s, close to 50 maybe.
Yeah. I think, I believe, I looked it up because I wasn't sure either, but I think Paul was supposed to be 15 at the start of the book. And then, he does certainly age throughout. But yeah, that doesn't mean that it has to be that way because Kyle MacLachlan sure as hell wasn't. But yes, that's where I started my investigation for both Paul and Lady Jessica. So yeah. So Andy did Alfre Woodard. Good pick, Andy. I'll finish us off here. I wanted, again, you guys have done a fantastic job of explaining what the character is like, both soft and powerful. And I decided to go with Sarah Snook for that. I feel like I cast her pretty recently, but I can't think of what for. But she is in Succession, if you watched that on HBO. She was in the movie Predestination with Ethan Hawke. Which is really, really good. I highly recommend that. I remember we talked about that. Gosh, probably it was like 3 years ago now. I said I'm gonna watch that. And then I finally did.
I'm so glad you finally watched that.
Yeah, super good. Really, really. I actually want to watch it again just to get kind of the insy outsies of it. But yes, I very much enjoyed it.
I want to draw a picture of it. Like I want to draw the time of that movie.
Yeah, it's a trip for sure. Yeah, it's one of those movies which I'm all about. I just think she's so great. I think that she, in Succession, she, is a very powerful woman, but knows when to pull that back, knows when to flatter people, knows when to, just not go all the way. But when it comes down to it, she can be as fierce and as potent as she needs to be. And I feel like that is Lady Jessica in a nutshell. So that's where I went with that. So for Lady Jessica, originally played by Francesca Annis, Jerry went with Shore Agdashlu, Mark went with Rosamund Pike, Lee went with Kate Beckinsale, Andy went with Alfre Woodard, and I went with Sarah Snook. Up next in the majors is Paul. Mark, tell us about young Paul.
Okie dokie. Paul Atreides, Muad'Dib Kid, Witch Voice Prophecy Kid, is the young son of the Duke of House Atreides, who somehow lives out a totally normal life of a young nobleman, despite the fact that he's not supposed to exist, maybe, and is reviled, maybe, by a group of witches who act as royal advisors, maybe because he's prophesied to lead a group of maybe rebels against a maybe coup that the psychic witches somehow didn't see coming. I honestly am not totally sure who he is, except that he's played by Kyle MacLachlan, and he can shoot lasers by throat singing while riding giant worms.
You seem to have a very firm grasp of this movie.
Yes.
I found it quite confusing.
So did I.
So I think the challenge in casting Paul Atreides is the one that the casting agents for the 1984 version of the film pretty much failed at, and it's finding a young adult actor that probably looks much younger than he is. I think Kyle MacLachlan was not that, even though he's a fine actor. I had a hard time finding one as well, and looked through like 200 names on IMDb, but I think I've found a pretty good option. His name is Barry Keoghan. He's an Irish lad who you would have seen recently in The Eternals, where he plays Druig. He does in that movie. He does a very good job of making you not like him, and then making you kind of come around to it. And while I think I don't necessarily want this Paul to do exactly that, I think being somewhere between like a totally good guy and hating him is probably something that I would appreciate, and I think that that young Barry would probably do that. So I present to you Barry Keoghan.
I have still not yet seen Eternals, so I need to remedy that. But I saw the name when I was doing similar research and just didn't know enough about him to make an informed pick. But I like that description of it a lot.
Thank you. Also, I have no idea if he can throat sing.
We can make that work.
Yeah, we can CGI it. We'll fix it in post.
Yes.
Yeah. Kyle, let's move on to you.
Yeah, this was a really, really hard one. Largely because it took all of my willpower not to just pick Timothée Chalamet, because I feel like that was pretty much perfect. But I tried to avoid that as much as possible, not to just repeat every brilliant casting choice that happened in the 2021 movie. So, with that in mind, I went with someone a little edgier than I would say Timothée is. I wanted where Paul goes to make sense, but I also wanted someone that could be and feel young and vulnerable and, trying to be wise, but not quite there yet. And for that, I went with Ezra Miller, who you might know from the Fantastic Beasts series, the Harry Potter series, as well as The Flash in the DC Justice League universe. I honestly, The Flash is where I really kind of most put my compass point, I guess, in terms of the kind of goofiness of it. He still kind of feels like a young kid in that movie, even though I think he's 29, I want to say now. So I feel like he can play young enough that it will feel true-ish to maybe old teen, 18, 19, and then age from there. So yeah, I like that he brings a darkness at the same time. So when he does get into, world destroying, taking away all of the spice from the entire universe, Paul, it makes sense and it doesn't feel like a cop out.
I like it. I like that one a lot.
Thank you. Andy is next. Andy went with Simu Liu, who I believe is the main actor from Shang-Chi, if I'm not remembering incorrectly. Yeah. That's really cool. I really like that pick. I haven't seen anything that he has done besides Shang-Chi, but I really enjoyed his performance in that. That's another kind of one. Again, the age is just so hard. I feel like he's not super old, probably mid to late 20s, I would guess, but
probably,
maybe they can make him a little younger at the beginning, CG wise or something like that, or makeup. But I like the worldliness that he brings with still being, not overly so.
Yeah, and probably a smart pick to cast an Asian to find somebody to look young.
Yeah. Lee, it is on to you. Who is your Paul?
I wanted somebody who, since this character has so much to do, and I would say that a lot of the movie is kind of told from his point of view. You need someone, I think, with a good, presence and some charisma, but able to show vulnerability as well. So I went with Tanner Buchanan, who I mostly know from the Cobra Kai series. He plays Johnny Lawrence's son, and he's, I think, a really talented actor who is still at the beginning of his career. I think there was also a Netflix movie that was a remake of She's All That, but with the genders flipped.
Oh, yeah.
So he plays the Rachel Lee Cook role, apparently.
Nice. Okay. Yep. I remember seeing the trailer for that.
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, he's got a lot of those qualities that I think someone playing a character like Paul Atreides would need. So I liked him for this one.
Cool.
Nice.
Right on.
Anyone ever heard of him?
No, I recognize the face, and now I probably know why just from having seen that trailer, but I didn't recognize the name, no.
Yeah.
I was opposite. I recognized the name, but couldn't picture him.
Oh, yeah. But let's finish up with Jer.
So I wanted to go in a couple different directions. I wanted to go a little bit older than the books have Paul. And I also wanted to kind of keep with the themes and casting that I think that the most recent remake, did a pretty decent job of in keeping House Atreides to be very much kind of a Mediterranean, Middle Eastern influenced house, whereas Harkonnen is more Northern European. And so I wanted to kind of keep with that to a certain degree and keep some of those same themes while kind of turning them a little bit, which is where I chose Lady Jessica, and now her son Paul, I chose Dev Patel. He's been in a number of things, and his star is on the rise. I think he's 30-ish. So he's young, but not a kid. You would know him from quite a few things, all the way back to Slumdog Millionaire. But I recently saw him in The Green Knight, which was really, really good. I liked it quite a bit. He just has that real charm about him, kind of that wide-eyed, optimistic kind of character, and I just really, really like him. I was really impressed with him in Green Knight, which sent me backwards, kind of watching some of his other stuff a little bit, and I really think he's a really talented actor. A little old for this role, so I kind of pushed everything up a little bit, both with his age and his mother's age, but I don't think that necessarily takes away from the story at all, because it does, like we talked about a little bit ago, there is a decent amount of time that transpires over the course of the movie, especially if you're going to cram the entire story into one movie like 1984 Dune did.
Yeah. That's a really good pick. I like the combination of your Jessica and Paul together. That's really, really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do too.
yeah, me too.
Right on. So for Paul, Mark went with Barry Keoghan. Kyle, hi, that's me, went with Ezra Miller. Andy went with Simu Liu. Lee went with Tanner Buchanan. And Jer went with Dev Patel. Finally, we're going to get into the minor characters, first of which Jer is going to tell us about.
Yeah, the first minor character shouldn't have been a minor character. He should have had a lot bigger role, but I am going to speak about Mentat Peter de Vries, who was originally played by Brad Dourif. And the Mentats, for those of you who were confused by the movie, rightfully so, Mentats were human beings that were trained to become living computers, because in the world of Dune, computers are outlawed for fear of them becoming smarter than humans and taking over vis-a-vis Terminator. So they became living computers, nearly superhuman in their logic, computing, and cognitive reasoning. Peter was such a mentat, except that he was also sort of trained to become sadistic and ruthless by Baron Harkonnen. So he's got kind of an additional skill set there of horribleness. And he's also got the best eyebrows in the biz. Brad Dourif played him bizarrely. Which I appreciated, but man, was it wackadoo. And I appreciated it. I was also confused by it, especially having watched the newer one and seeing Dasmalchian. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. His performance was much more subdued, and the character was much more subdued in the new one too. And I wish that he would have had a little bit more of a spotlight, because this character is kind of a secondary villain in the story. But anyway, I wanted somebody that was going to be odd, going to be very kind of off-putting to a degree, but also very engaging. And so I went with Tilda Swinton.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Reliable.
Yep.
I firmly believe that she would get this script, read about this character, and come up with 100 ideas for how to make it, both in costume, in looks, in voice inflection, and would 100% nail it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because that's what she does.
She is the British Meryl Streep.
That's awesome. Good pick.
I love it. Thank you. Now let's move on to Lee.
So Chani, originally played by Sean Young, is a Freeman warrior and Paul's love interest, probably because of her glowing blue eyes. I don't remember a lot of what she did. I'm sure it was germane to the plot, but I wanted an actress who has kind of a mysterious way about her, the way that Sean Young did. So I went with Teresa Palmer, who I think I have cast before. I can't remember what movie it was in, but she's an Australian actress. I first saw her in a independent movie that was set in the 80s called Take Me Home Tonight. She also played the main character's love interest in Hacksaw Ridge, if anybody saw that.
No, I never did.
I know I've seen her somewhere, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, and I believe she was also in Warm Bodies and the Point Break remake.
Yeah, I liked her a lot in Warm Bodies. That was good. I really enjoyed that movie. That was really fun.
Yeah. Anything that I've ever seen her in, I've really liked her, and she does have sort of a mysteriousness about her, so that's why I chose her for this role.
I show no record of anyone choosing her before.
Really? I thought I did, but no, maybe not.
Well, I'm glad you've picked her for the first time now.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to Mark.
All right. I present to you Duke Leto Atreides, originally played by Jürgen Prochnow. Duke Atreides is the father of young Paul and honestly doesn't do much in the story except die. Before that, though, he seems to be a decent leader and a decent father. I feel like old Jürgen didn't have a lot to do in this one. He needed to be fatherly in the beginning, and he needed to get tortured, and he did those things. Well, I mean, you know me. I like actors that will lean into it. And so I picked for this role Lee Pace.
Sure.
Nice.
Yep.
Because he will lean into stuff. Also helps that he's tall and handsome.
Yep. I'd say fatherly.
Yeah, I think he can do it. So, Lee Pace. Kyle, how about you?
Yes, my minor character is Fade Rauta. Fade is a henchman with spiky hair and serves almost no purpose in the movie. Wait, we got Sting to play him? Like, Sting? Oh boy, we better figure out something to do with this character then. Narrator. They didn't. Fade, I don't even know if Fade is in the book. I have not read the book. Jer, is Fade in the book?
Unknown.
Okay, so that doesn't really change anything. Yeah, I don't know. He's a bad guy, and he is Sting, and that's pretty much it. There's really very little about this character. Like, he gets a big battle at the very, very, very end of the movie, which makes no sense other than the fact that it's Sting. I don't know. It's weird. Don't love the character, but whatever. Sting looks ripped, as usual. I wanted somebody that, if we are going to have this in there, which they actually didn't in the 2021 movie, they kind of do a hybrid of sorts of a couple other characters into one. But I wanted somebody to bring a bit more menacingness, a little bit more poise, and somebody that I felt could like really, really kick butt if he needed to. So I decided to go with Tamura Morrison, who you might know as Boba Fett, Jango Fett, all of the Fetts, all of the clones. I wonder if he has the record for most total characters played just by virtue of the clones. Interesting.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'll take that
him
back.
Or the guy that played the Oompa Loompas.
Fair, yes. Yeah, I've been digging the Book of Boba Fett. I think it's been really good, and I just wanted him to have the opportunity to do something that's a little outside the Star Wars realm, and you know, show off some of the skills that he has. So I don't know. I thought it'd be fun.
I like that. I like it a lot.
Very good. And last but not least, we are going to go with Dr. Yu, originally played by Dean Stockwell. Dr. Yu is the personal physician of Baron Leto Atreides and has the tightest groomed mustache this side of Hercule Poirot. He betrays Leto with a fart gas tooth or something, but saves Lady Atreides and Paul, but gets stabbed, so it's not really clear why he did anything. This was originally played by Dean Stockwell. If I remember correctly, I think Andy really liked this performance. Does anybody else share that impression, that they really liked the Dean Stockwell performance?
I think we'll find out in episode 2.
Okay, cool. I did not. So I just was like, and Dean Stockwell had just died when I watched this. I was like, man, dang it. I don't want to think ill of the dead, but whoo, boy, do I. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me, mustache aside. That being said, Andy had the opportunity to recast it and go with everybody's favorite traitor Joe Pantoliano. So, let's throw him in.
Picked him just so he could say Joey Pants.
Joey Pants.
Yeah.
Yes. When he's emailed it to me, he said Joey Pants parentheses Joe Pantoliano, not the other way around. So that is his proper name.
As if there's another Joey Pants in Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah.
As if, Mark.
I do like Joey Pants for this role.
I like him for a lot of roles.
I don't know, like he's so often like skeezy, and this is a good opportunity for him to be put together, and I like that.
Yeah. My only worry is that because he's so often skeevy that you're like, something ain't good about that guy.
I don't trust that doctor.
Yeah, and that occurred to me as I was saying it.
But I get you.
Yeah, maybe it wouldn't be at all surprising that he turns.
Yeah. I get
What's interesting and so lost in the poor storytelling of this movie is that the doctor's character actually has to kind of be brainwashed a little bit, which is part of what happens with Mentat Peter. Is he is the one that comes up with that scheme and brainwashes the doctor and gets him to sort of betray the house. And so I think that there's a whole bunch of really interesting story left outside of this movie, unfortunately, like most of the characters, that would have really been cool to see with somebody that could kind of portray that desperation better than it was.
Yeah. I mean, they did an okay job of, mentioning the family, like her reuniting with the family. I mean, there was at least some motivation present there, but that, I agree, that would definitely add a lot to it. All right, so that wraps up the minor characters, and with that, this first part of our discussion of Dune. We made it. We did a Dune. During the In Memoriam episode when Andy said we did it, we're doing a Dune, I just lost it. That just made me so happy and made me laugh so hard. So we're doing Dune. We're doing a Dune. We did a Dune, part 1. Part 2 to come. Yes. Remakers Mark is a proud member of the Math is Hard Network. To find out more information about this podcast or any other podcast on the network, check us out at mathishard.net. There you will find show notes with links to all of the people, movies, and links discussed in this episode. This information is also attached to the show file in the podcast client of your choice. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review Remakers Mark, which would mean the world to us. We are also on YouTube, so find us there. We're on Facebook. Search for Math is Hardnet or Remakers Mark, Twitter at Remakers Mark, and Instagram at Remakers Mark Podcast. So join in the discussion there as well. So we made it through part 1. I'm really excited about part 2. I seriously cannot wait to hear everybody's thoughts on that. I know it's probably going to be a barrage, but my soul is prepared, in the immortal words of that one guy from The Last Crusade. So yeah, it should be good. And just remember, if anybody mentions a fake gas tooth, don't take them up on that. It's not going to go well for anybody. With that said, gentlemen, until the next time, may the Force be with you.
And also with you.